All right. All right, are we live? Am I doing it? Oh, I am. Oh, this is so crazy. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So I am here teaching a class on human design today, and I am delivering this really for the human design newbies. So I am going to just wait a moment to let people trickle in. I'm a few minutes late, but it's 1:11. I think I did all right. So first of all, I just want to say hi. And if you don't know me, I am Tiffani Purdy, and I am a human design expert. I help people use human design to create more cohesive, understanding home lives, right? And for a great many of my clients, they also fall into the bracket of spiritual entrepreneur or the work at home family. However it is you identify, I use people to create better, more cohesive home family lives. So that's who I am and what I do. And that is what I'm hoping to really deliver to you in this workshop, to show you just what human design is and how you can use it to create a better family life. So for the sake of me being able to speak to you better, and whether you're here live or whether you're catching the replay, and I'm just gonna, never done this through Zoom to Facebook, so I'm just going to pop open my phone here so that I can see if anybody leaves a comment so I can respond to you in a timely manner. But what I really want to know right now is, how much do you know about human design, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being, you know, absolutely nothing, what the heck is this? And 10 being you are an expert. And yes, I know this is a subjective question because you don't know what you don't know, but this will help me to understand a little bit about where you think you are, right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, if you could just drop me a number, that would be especially helpful, with 1 being, you know, nothing, and 10 being you're an expert. Where would you say that you are with human design? Okay, so with that said, right, I'll give you guys some time to drop your number in. I know that I lag a little bit, so you know, if I am talking ahead of where you're at chatting, just know that that's what's going on with Zoom. But I'll give you a moment to respond and just tell you a little bit more about me. So if you do know anything about human design, I am a 3-5 emotional manifesting generator, single definition defined from the throat down. I am a native Floridian, and I am post Saturn return, praise. I am a mom to 1, just 1 beautiful daughter. She is a 4-6 pure generator. She's a 4-year-old. She'll be starting kindergarten this year. She's very excited. And we've been a work at home family since before she was born. I manifested my ideal partner almost 2 years ago now. He is a 1-3 pure manifesting generator. We have a truly harmonic home, and I'm blessed that we had human design from the beginning of our relationship. I have been freelancing for 6 years, and I've been full-time for 4.5. 3 years in coaching and 2.5 years using astrology and human design as my major components for coaching. And essentially what I do is I make human design really easy, something that you can actually use in the real world and apply it to your life. And especially my passion lies in helping people to understand themselves and each other better. So that's why my passion really is with families. So with that said, I want to give you a little bit of the structured side of what human design is, like what it actually is, and explain it in 3D terms, how you can use it. And then I also want to give you a little bit of a more like higher perspective analogy, right? So literally, human design is a synthesis of cosmic and metaphysical sciences. It is a marriage of astrology, the I Ching, Hindu Brahmin chakra system, and quantum mechanics. So you can see there's a lot of different languages and modalities that go into human design. So if you've ever pulled your human design chart and were like, what the heck is this? It might explain why you might have, you know, maybe noticed that some of it makes sense, but some of it doesn't. If you're an astrologer like me, I was an astrologer before I found human design. So for me, human design just clicked a little bit easier. Shout me out in the comments if you are also someone who follows astrology or considers yourself a reader of the stars, because you might be a great candidate for understanding human design just a little bit better than someone who's coming fresh into the language. So in 3D terms, right, how we can use this, I see human design as the blueprint to your body and your mind. Human design gives you the greatest degree of self-awareness. You are able to unlock the ability to let your body be the self-driving vehicle that it was designed to be, so that you can explore creatively as a passenger. How much of your time and energy is spent making decisions about things that don't really matter? Things like, what am I going to eat? What am I going to wear? Who should I go to lunch with today? Where, should I promote myself today? Our body is very intuitive, and it knows where it wants to go, what kind of information, what kind of food, what it wants to consume, and how. And really what it comes down to is learning the basics of your human design will help you to unlock that even further, so that you can have more confidence in the decisions that you make in your day-to-day, which will open up so much more energy for the creative space that you want to be living your life in, right? Nobody really wants to be sitting around agonizing over what they want to wear today, or unless that is your passion, right? If that is your passion, that's wonderful, and you're spending your creative energy there. But I bet you don't want to be deciding what do you want to eat today, right? It's very rare that someone wants to spend most of their energy on the little things in life, right? So that is really at the core of it, what human design helps us to understand personally. Then when we get into group dynamics and you're looking at, well, and this inevitably happens every time I sit down with a client for a single session, they are sitting down for themselves, and then they realize, oh, I wonder what my daughter's design is. I wonder what my boyfriend's design is. I wonder what my daughter's father's design is, right? Because once you start to understand yourself better, you really start to want to understand the people in your life better too, because we are all designed uniquely and differently. And because of that, what feels right to you and the direction that feels right to me, the way that I act, the way that I make my best decisions, doesn't necessarily work for my 4-year-old. My 4-year-old has a different design than me, and I need to raise her and treat her and expect her to act accordingly. Thank you, Katie. Katie says that she is about a 5 with her human design knowledge. So that's about, half. So she's probably got a pretty good handle on what the type, authority, and strategy is for her design, which is excellent. And really, that's all you need to know. We'll get there in just a moment. So what I want to give to you now that I've helped you to see a little bit better about how you can apply this to your life and what it really is, I want to give you a little bit of a higher perspective analogy. And I'm giving this to you from my personal perspective as a 3-5 life. Can't teach anything that I haven't real lifed. I want to share with you a different way of looking at human design, right? Because as I've shared this with people who might share a similar perspective as me, and shared with people who have completely differing viewpoints, the way that this analogy lands makes human design make a lot of sense. So I'm going to offer this analogy, and if it makes sense to you, that's fantastic. If not, hang tight in just a moment. I'll be sharing some human design charts and really giving you an example of how this works. So I think that human design is our specific human designs, right? I believe that if God sees us as anything, that it would be as our human designs, right? When we look at what our human design is, it is all encompassing, and there are lots of different numbers in the chart, and I'll show you, an example of this in just a moment. But what I really want to drive home for you is that, actually, this might be easier if I just shared the screen. So I'm going to share this with you for just a moment, because I think that this will help the analogy land just a little bit better. So this is my human design. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my chart. And what I really wanted to show you here is that, and this will actually make even more sense if I pull it up like this. Okay. So for those of you who are a little versed in astrology, this might start to make a lot more sense to you now. You see the mandala circle that goes all the way around, and you'll start to notice, oh, this is Capricorn, this is Aquarius, this is Pisces. You might start to notice some of these symbols. So I know that for me, right, I'm very Capricorn dominant. Hello, Mama Capricorn. I've got my sun over here, my moon and my Neptune are conjunct, right? So you start to see all of my placements that are over here. And what I want to show you is that there are lots of more opportunities, right? And what this is to me, if God has a language, if God has a native tongue, right? If God speaks a real language, it's probably not English, and it's probably not even Latin or Arabic, right? If God spoke a language and we look and observe at the universe and creation itself, it looks like if God had a native tongue, it might be the stars, right? Because why else would they be there? And so you see all of where we call what you're defined, right? So everywhere that I'm defined, you see these little numbers that are lit up here. And that corresponds with everywhere that the stars were when I was born. So if we take a look at our human design as a true translation of the Holy Trinity concept, right? That this is God the Father, the Son, which is us, right? The physical, the face of God, God made flesh. And then the Holy Trinity, right? Which is something that, or the Holy Spirit, which is something that brings us closer to God and closer to each other. Okay. And so the way that I perceive this, if we look at our whole chart, we see that there are lots of different numbers. There are lots of places that aren't lit up. And that's God is everything. God is all encompassing, right? God, source, power is everything. And so if we look at this, then where you are defined, right? And so that's everywhere that I'm lit up and everywhere that makes connections and all of these little things here. That would be my physical expression, right? My God expression, the expression that God put on me, right? So this is God realized as flesh, right? Which would be, I taught a masterclass about this last June, and I called it Your Own Personal Jesus, right? Because I think that, you know, if we were to look at this, that would be what your design is, quite literally, right? Your face of God. And then finally, we've got the Holy Spirit. And this is where we start to get into to family dynamics. You know, in the Bible, there is scripture that says that where two or more meet, there I am with you. And that, I believe, is when God draws us together, when our timelines cross, when we are brought into connection with people on purpose, whether it is in our families, right? My daughters right here, or whether it is just by chance and meeting people, we're meant to make these connections with each other. And that's where I feel, you know, we've been guided by spirit to be together. And so I wanted to hand you that analogy. Hi, Caesar. Love Caesar. What a lovely, lovely manifestor friend that I've known for more than half of my life. Insane. Anyway, so I wanted to give you the basics, like what this really is. And then I wanted to give you, you know, the 3D, like how can we use this? And then I wanted to give you more of like that higher perspective, like spiritually and philosophically, how do I see human design? Because I do think it's important to know, you know, there are lots of people who teach human design out there. And if I'm not someone who resonates with you, you should know it right away, right? And so I just wanted to offer you my personal perspective on human design to maybe shed a little bit of light on that as well. I've had a lot of questions about my personal philosophy about human design. So there it is. So now I want to share with you some examples, right? How human design has really affected me and affected my life and affected my family more than anything, because so many people, oh my goodness, Caesar is talking about his Saturn return coming soon. So, a lot of people have asked me how I manage to have such a harmonious co-parenting relationship and how I manage to have such a harmonious, you know, blended family life. If you don't know me personally, I spent the last 2 years as a single mom. I lived in an apartment alone with my daughter. But I have been in a relationship for about 2 years now. We just moved in together last month. And my daughter's father has a girlfriend as well, and they live close by. And we're not great together, and that's fine. But we have a great relationship. We have a great communicative relationship, and it's not easy, Ileana. It is not for the weak, co-parenting. I believe, though, I've had such a world of difference, knowing who I am, knowing who he is, so that I know how to talk to him, okay? Because as you'll see in just a moment, we are very different people on an energetic level, right? So before I get ahead of all of that, what I want you to know is that even though this is crazy amount of information, there are so many different ways we could apply human design. We could talk about how you show up in your business. We could talk about how you show up in your marketing. We could talk about how you show up in your relationships, right? And that's really where my passion is knowing yourself and knowing your relationships, right? There are so many different ways that we could apply all of this information. And so because I don't want to inundate you and overwhelm you, what I really want you to understand is that there are 3 pieces of information. There are just 3 pieces of information that you need to know about your design and the designs of the people around you. The rest is icing on top. The rest is just further awareness and clarification. But ultimately, the 3 pieces of information that you need to know about your human design are your type, your authority, and your strategy. Okay, one more time: your type, your authority, and your strategy. And so I'm going to go into that just very, very briefly here. Your type tells you literally about what type of person you are, what type of worker you are. There are 5 types in human design, and each type is just a little bit different. I use an analogy that it basically talks about the types building a town, right? And so I've got all of that information on my Instagram. If you want to go check that out, it's at Human Design with Tiffani. It's Tiffani with an I at the end, by the way. And that will give you some further clarification on the types, but suffice to say, your type is literally how you work, how you operate in the world. Some people are more builders. Some people are more like architects. Some people are more like developers. And it's really important that you know yourself and the people around you so that you don't have unrealistic expectations of yourself or the people around you. You understand? And I'll show you in just a moment just how different some people can be, even if they share the same type. So type is first, then we've got your authority. Your authority is your decision-making mechanism. It is the thing inside of you that tells you whether this is a yes or whether this is a no. And some people out there, one of the more common ones, and this is just a very, cliche thing to say, is go with your gut, right? Trust your gut. And if you have a sacral authority, that is good advice. If you do not have a sacral authority, then you have probably, and there are more than half of the population of the world does not have a sacral authority. So if that doesn't make sense to you, if you've heard go with your gut and you're like trying and searching for that feeling in your gut and you just don't know what they're talking about, chances are you've got a different authority. Chances are you might have a splenic authority or an emotional authority or one of the other ones. So it's really important also that you know, and to me, right, this is like it's your intuition. It's your intuitive signature. It's how God designed you to know when he's speaking to you. Okay. So that is your authority. Now, something that happens, especially for the people who have instantaneous authorities, like a splenic or a sacral authority, they start to get like overwhelmed, because you ask your gut, do I want to write a book? Do I want to go to the park? Do I want to eat chicken salad sandwich for lunch? I don't know, right? And you're getting yes, 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 yes. And you start to get overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, well, there's so many things to do. What do I do first? Right? And that is where I point to the strategy, right? And so your type tells you about how you work. Your authority tells you about how you make your best decisions. And your strategy tells you when it's go time, when you've got your green light. So there are, depending on what type you are, depending on what your authority is, your strategy may be different. So this is why it's, again, really important to understand yourself as well as the people in your life so that you can be a better communicator, be a better partner, parent, friend, and be a better guide, right? If you're the kind of person like me that even before I was coaching, I was the person that people would come to for advice about things all the time. That's very common for people who fall into the world of coaching. And so if that's you, and even if you're not a coach and you're someone who, this is a modality, if you're a coach, like you're going to see this and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I have to use this. I need to know this. It happens to most of my clients who are in that industry. However, if you are just a person who's here trying to understand yourself and the people in your life better, this is still a powerful, powerful tool. So now I want to show you just a little bit about, right, how it works in terms of family dynamics and how some of this information has actually been effective in my real, tangible 3D life. And it's not just more information to know, and that's the thing that I really want you to go home with today. Don't just look into human design because I told you to, okay? Don't just look into human design because you're really into personality types or personality tests. And, don't go into this if this is just something that you think that you need to know, that it's just more information, right? If you're taking this so that you can apply it because you see how this information can be effective in creating the results that you want to be experiencing in your life, then by all means, dive right in. And we'll talk more about different ways that you can work with me later. But in the meantime, I really want you to take a look at, so this is my chart. Hello, everyone. You can see I'm very defined, right? I've got a lot of energy here. But I've got an open, what we call an open mind, right? Open mind, open head, open ajna. So what I want you to understand, and this is going just a shade deeper into human design. Once we get past your type, authority, and your strategy, you want to look at your centers, right? And so you might have heard the word empath before, right? Raise your hand if you feel like you're an empath, you feel like you're someone who feels other people's feelings. If that's you, I would love some hearts or just a comment. Let me know if that's something that you have identified with. I'll let you know that fun fact about me, I used to have a podcast. I used to have many podcasts, but my very, very, very first podcast that I ever started in 2017 was co-hosted with a friend of mine, and it was called the Not a Regular Empath Podcast. And I called it that because I self-identified as an empath. I thought that was me. But I recognized that I did not react to life the same way that people who claimed they were empaths did, because at a certain point I could emotionally just Capricorn moon, like ice it, like just get over it, right? Just push through it, and funny story, I'm not an emotional empath whatsoever. I'm an emotional authority, and that made a heck of a lot more sense. And so I want you to know that if you've ever been curious about it, if you've ever thought, oh, am I an empath? There's actually a way for you you can look at this. You can look at your body graph and know where you're empathic and where you are what I call the influencer, right? So where you are influencing and where you are more easily influenced, right? And so you can see that I've got a lot of influencer energy, right? That I have a lot of spaces that are all colored in. Wherever it is that you have white centers, that's where you're open, okay? So for me, I know that just on a personal energetic level, it's smart for me to limit the amount of time that I spend scrolling, the amount of time that I spend around other people's ideas. Got it? Because look at all this energy that I have to do, to work, to get started. My sacral center is defined. I've got the defined will center, defined throat. Like I've got all that get up and go energy. And we're not even going to go into like my specific placements. It's like next level. So you can see why a good practice for me would be giving myself a limit on the amount of time that I'm allowed to just mindlessly browse on social media. Because the more that I'm exposed to other people's ideas and the less that I sit with myself in awareness and discernment of, is this idea for me? The more I'm going to burn out just starting ideas and starting things that were never meant for me in the first place. And if you were following me like 2.5, 3 years ago, you're a witness to that. You're a witness to me starting a bunch of different projects that I never had any intention of following through on, because they were never meant for me in the first place. So, thank goodness I never got too far in any of those projects. But even like silly things like, starting different like content creation projects, I know that I've just done things because I have the energy to do so, but I've gotten the idea from somewhere else, right? And so this is the kind of opportunities that you have when you know yourself, when you are aware of who you are, right? Where you are more of an influencer and where you are more easily influenced. And again, if we're going to my higher perspective sort of approach of looking at human design, I believe that we made a covenant with God before we were born, and we decided wherever we're defined, like, I've got this, right? Like, I want to carry this load, right? And wherever we're open, we asked God to take care of that for us. Can you bless me with the people, the places, the resources, whatever it is that I need to get whatever I need there, so that I can do what I was designed to do. You get me? Okay. So now let's take a quick look at some of the people in my life so that you can see how we're just a little bit different, and how this helps me to understand where they are maybe receiving energy or pressure from me, and vice versa, right? So with that said, let's take a quick look at my daughter. This is my daughter, Monikaya. She has a similar-ish design to me, right? She's got these 4 centers down here defined. However, you can see right off the bat that there are 2 centers defined that I have that she doesn't, and that's the throat and the emotional center. So quick story, the other day, I was in a little bit of a low. It happens for the emotional authorities in the house. You're not going to feel happy all the time. And when you're not, it's the end of the world. It's not that anything necessarily is happening in your life. There's no reason for it. You're just in a low. So take a beat, relax, cry it out if you need to, whatever it is that you need to do to feel better. Okay. Because your job as an emotional authority is keeping your vibe high and coming back to neutral. So my daughter, being 4 years old and being an emotional empath, she will come up to me and, put her hand on my back and, Mommy, can I give you a hug? Mommy, can I get you some water? What can I do for you? Right. And it's very classic nature for someone who has an open emotional center to be almost like a people pleaser and to want to take care of other people. And it's not necessarily because they want to take care of other people genuinely, but because they're feeling discomfort and they want to do whatever they can to alleviate the discomfort in the environment so that they can feel better. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not trying to say that, your people pleasing nature is selfish. I'm just trying to point out to you that this is the whole process of deconditioning, right? It's checking your motives. And before you take an action, recognizing, is this mine? Is this my feeling? Is this my responsibility? Do I even want to do this? This is a big part of the work that we do. So with my 4-year-old, I can have as intelligent of a conversation as I can with her. And I let her know, sweetheart, I appreciate your hugs and I appreciate your love. I'm just having feelings right now. My feelings are okay, right? Normalizing feelings. There's nothing wrong with my feelings. However, they're my feelings, and there's nothing you can do to fix them. And there's nothing you did to cause them, right? And so there's a different language that I can use now with my daughter to let her know at 4 years old, right? I see what's happening. I see what's going on, and I can nip it now, right? It's incredible. And then, I use obviously different language with my boyfriend, who is a grown adult, and I can, point to this. I'm very blessed that he is open to this information and that we've been able to use it together because he understands this with me. There have been times that, we've been in bed, or that I've been in bed, he's come home from work, and you see he's also got a wide open emotional center. There are no activations in the center whatsoever. So he comes in and he immediately immediately feels my feelings. And so it's my responsibility as a communicative adult to let him know, hey, I'm in a little bit of a low. Right. And if he wants, he can sit in the living room or he can come into another room in the house. If he doesn't feel that he is in an energetic space right now to engage with those feelings, he can sit in the room with me if he likes, as long as he's aware, hey, I'm in a low. You don't need to take it on. You can be a screen, not a sponge. Right? There are so many ways. There's language to this now that elevates, our life experience. How many times have you walked into a room in your house, you feel the tension and what's wrong? What's the matter with you? What can I do to help? And all of those things can be extremely frustrating for an emotional authority because I don't know what's wrong. There's probably nothing wrong in the first place. And if there's nothing wrong, there's likely nothing you can do to help. And the more that we're judging the feelings, the longer I'm going to stay here, right? And the more frustrating it is. I know, right, Brittany? God bless Charlie. I'm glad that that we have this language to understand each other, right? So, right, you've seen now how this helps me to be a better me. This helps me to be a better mom, right? And this also helps me to be a better partner, right? There's so much language. There's so much opportunity now that we have to understand ourselves and each other better, right? Another really great example is my daughter having this open throat. Well, Brittany, I love that. I'm so glad to hear that, right? Brittany was one of my clients for quite a long time. And, she has learned now that she doesn't necessarily, there's likely nothing wrong, right? If you want to ask your emotional authority, partner, friends, or whoever it is, how can I support you right now? Is a much better way of asking what's the matter with you or what's wrong, because if you don't actually have and ask yourself, like, take a moment, right? What is my motivation? Do I really want to help them or not? Because if you don't, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But don't take it on. Don't take responsibility for somebody else's feelings, because, right, it only exacerbates the low for both of you. So one last thing, right? Let's talk about my daughter's open throat. She is so funny, right? She loves being the center of attention. She has a Leo Venus and Leo Venus and something else. She's got 2 placements in Leo. I think it's Jupiter, Leo Venus and Jupiter. And if I'm not mistaken, they're conjunct. Anyway, so, right, big energy. Anyway, she loves being the center of attention. She loves performing. But if you actually make her the center of attention, right, like, she freezes. Right. So you'll often hear her in my client calls, like singing in the background or just being, an open throat 4-year-old, like doing whatever she can to, get the sound out, right? She wants to express herself, but she doesn't exactly know like how or what to do yet. She's 4, your open throat children, be mindful of how often you shush them. Be mindful of how often you tell them to be quiet. Okay. I often tell my daughter, is there a better space for expressing this right now? If I'm in a meeting, right? I don't want her to not sing, but I want her to not sing right next to me. Right. So I just invite her to do it somewhere else. It helps to her, for her to not grow up to be someone who feels like her voice doesn't matter, because that's what happens. We suppress these feelings, these energies in our children that they're, trying to navigate, but they're not necessarily, they're 4 years old, right? They're 7 years old. And so it's up to us as a guide. They say kids don't come with an instruction book. Like, I beg to differ. They're just very individualized. Like, this is my daughter's, so to help her out, instead of asking her questions like, what are you most excited about starting school? That's going to be a question she's going to clam up. She's going to, I don't know. Right. But if I ask her yes or no questions and engage with that sacral, center of hers, and I ask her, are you excited about making new friends? Oh, yes. And I'm excited to play with them, and I'm excited to build things, and right. And then she can get into it and she knows what it is that she has to say. But when I ask her in a more broad context, it's harder for her to access. So me as a parent, I just guide her to her answers a little bit easier that way. And it helps that I know that she has an open throat. So now I want to just very quickly show you, right? Actually, let me do my mother, because I think that the story between me and my mom is really powerful. And I've talked a lot today, and I thank all of you who are still with me. But I want to make this, short and sweet and actionable for you. And then I'm going to give you a couple of links later so that you can go further on this if you'd like to. So let's take a look at me, and then I'm going to come right over here to my mom. Okay, so we see that there's a lot of different energy between me and my mom, right? And so first and foremost, just to point out that she is a wide open emotional center as well. And she also has a wide open will center. The will center is, without going, too deep on this with you, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's will, right? There are some people who just, they don't need a New Year's resolution. They don't need any hyping up. It's like if they've committed to something, they're just going for it. Some people just naturally have that. It's about 40% of the population, and I happen to be one of those people. Now, I remember having a very distinct conversation with my mother when I was, I think, 8 years old. And we were driving in her minivan, and she had just celebrated, it was her 1 year or something like that at her job. And I asked her, like, okay, what's next? And she said, well, I'm happy with my job. I don't know what you mean. What's next? Like, this is where I'm at. And I was just totally like I didn't get it. And I kept pressing her. I was like, you mean you're not, she was an administrative assistant at Shriners Hospital. So she loved the organization. She loved what she did all day. Right. She loved just having the, some people really love having that stable job life, right? That it's that income, it's coming, that they have, the benefits and all of that. And so that was like the drive for my mom. 8 years old, I definitely had different priorities, different perspectives, didn't understand. Now, someone who, might have been a defined will parent, like my father, wouldn't have probably taken it very, personally or very seriously when I would have pressed him on a question like that, like, what's next? He probably would have even had an answer, what's next? My mother, however, I remember that conversation was not a pleasant conversation. And it was almost like, how dare I ask such a thing? Growing up, I was a very, very, very ambitious kid. I just always was, what's next? I remember when we moved into our house, it was a beautiful 3-bedroom home. And I asked, when are we moving into a bigger house? And my mom was just very like offended. And I understand as an adult now, right, why she would have reacted that way. But energetically, I can see why it would be threatening that someone with defined will is asking someone with open will who, and essentially people who have open will can feel that pressure. Do I have something to prove? Because there's so many, all these people are so ambitious. They want so many things. They're working so hard. Do I have to work that hard too? If you have open will, you've probably felt that way. Do I have something to prove? Do I need another certification? Do I need a banging website? Is that what it is that proves I'm successful? Do I need 50 testimonials before I can charge people? Right? That is very open will problems. Okay. So we take that into consideration. We take into consideration that I am an emotional authority, and I had a lot of feelings growing up, both from external situations and just riding the wave. And my mom, God bless her, she didn't really know what to do with any of that. And so, I was medicated from 12 years old until I was an adult and was able to personally say no. And this is not a dig on medication. If you're someone who thrives on medication, then that's wonderful and incredible for you. I just personally didn't need it. I was medicated because, I had a lot of feelings, and rather than giving me coping mechanisms or tools or trying to work through it psychologically or spiritually or emotionally, I was simply medicated. And I held a lot of resentment against my mom for that for a very long time. But when I see this, and I see that it's a wide open emotional center, and me having so many feelings at that time, it was literally for her self-preservation. And it gave me so much permission to forgive her. It gave me so much permission to release that when I saw this. And then finally, we can see that she's got this defined ashna. And the ashna is the center that controls answers, that controls organization, that controls solutions and organized thought. And it was something that especially bothered me as I was an adult and was, learning things, and especially things about, the power of positive thinking, etc. And, wanted to share that with my mom and wanted to share a lot of these perspectives with my mother. But when I saw, and there was so much friction, oh my gosh, like she just could not accept anything, any amount of information, any advice. There was nothing I could do that I could offer her, say to her, that she was willing to accept. And it was so frustrating for both of us because she felt like I just knew everything all the time and I was kind of a know-it-all. And I felt like she was closed-minded. And you guys, you can't make this up. She's not closed-minded, but she has a mind of her own. Okay. And there's no telling her otherwise. When you look at me though, having all of this energy in the open ajna, the question that you ask yourself when you have an open ajna is, am I trying to convince everybody else that I'm certain, right? Am I trying to convince my mom that I know things, that I know what is best for her, that I know what will run her life better, right? And you can't make it up. So when I finally sat down and had this conversation with my mom and showed her, like, this is your chart and this is my chart and this is what, like, look at us, mom. It was such a healing moment for us. And this was, probably 15 years of hurt and of misunderstanding and of just unspoken energy exchange, that if we had had a language for this, if we had had a tool, who knows what our relationship could be now if we had had those 15 years of harmony and communication and positivity behind us, right? And that's ultimately why I do what I do, because if you are spending any amount of time with people in your life, whether it is me living and working in the same place as all of these people, right, as my daughter and my boyfriend, right, I need to understand where there's potential for energy exchange. This is why, if you compare yourself to me and you're like, why can Tiffani just like work in chaos? And, if you're looking at me 2.5 years ago, working in a room in my mom's house with my 2-year-old, throwing things and watching Minions in the room with me, it's because of this. It's because I have the energy to like tunnel vision focus, but at the same time, that can almost be a downfall for me. And this is something that you can also see in my design. If you're someone who reads human design a little bit more, right, take a look at my South Node, right? Take a look at it. Your human design can show you so much, you guys. It can show you about your purpose. It can show you about how you are what are my thoughts on compromise? That's a great question, Heather. Can you elaborate a little bit further for me so that I can have some context? But ultimately, what I really want to drive home for you today, guys, is that as a human design expert, I know how to read this stuff, right? This is my job. Literally, this is what I do all day. I get into conversations with people and I look at your chart and I look at the charts of the people in your lives and I sit down and I, give people an opportunity to heal things and to see each other in a new way and to decondition those open centers. So, I'm right. Think about this in terms of, I know so many people out there, it's like, oh, this is just another thing I need to know. This is just another, set of information, right? That I don't have time for this. I'm doing so much already, right? And I want you to think about this in context of like, if you were to break your arm, do you need to learn how to read an X-ray, right? If you were to get pregnant, do you need to learn how to like do a sonogram and how to read a sonogram? No, right? There are professionals to do that for you. So unless you are so inspired by your sonogram technician that you want to become a sonogram technician, then I want you to take my advice here and understand you don't need to know all of this stuff. You don't need to learn how to read your human design charts, how to read the charts of your family members. Get someone to help you. Hire a professional to help you, to make sense of it for you. Heather says she has, you're talking, well, so that would be, we're talking about more like you're going into human design like 305 for people. And I want to keep this a little bit more like 101 level. But Heather, if you get into my inbox later, I would love to like nerd out and discuss some human design talk with you. That's totally like on my level. So thank you for asking those questions. Those are great questions. And if you guys are out there and you are wanting to go a little bit deeper into your human design, if you know it, right, totally just send me a message. I love chatting about, you know, human design all day. This is literally my passion. I can't stop thinking about it. I watch a documentary and I'm like, somebody give me their birth details before I call the police. It's just like, I can't turn it off, right? So with that said, I want to, oh, it's my pleasure, Heather. Yeah, absolutely. Open door policy, please. Like, we're literally friends here on Facebook, right? So let's be friends. So with that said, I am going to drop you guys a couple of links into the comments right now, because I really want you guys to understand, right, how you can go a little bit deeper, right? Because this is so much information to know. And I understand that when you look at your own charts, it can be very overwhelming. And so again, you don't have to be the X-ray tech. You don't have to be the sonogram tech. You can hire the expert to help you decipher it. So right now I have 3 ways to go deeper. You can order a reading. This is a 45-minute recording. This is for the person who just is not trying to Google all of this information and you want your human design chart personally read for you. When you order a reading, you're ordering it for 1 chart only. If you would like to order multiple readings, you're more than welcome to do so. The next way that you can go deeper is to book a session with me. And this is a 90-minute one-on-one session, you and me, and we're diving into your chart and as many charts as we can get to in that 90 minutes. And usually it's between 3 and 5 charts. I can get into like yours and 5 family members, right? And we can generally like go pretty good in that 90 minutes for all of those people. So I will drop a link for you to book a session with me as well. And then finally, the last way that you can work with me right now, and this is very, very, very limited time, is to apply for my mastermind. Now, my mastermind is not for everyone. My mastermind is mostly for the work at home parent. So while, you know, if you're out there and you're not a work at home family, you're probably more interested in ordering a reading or booking a session. But if you are someone who's a work at home parent and you want to understand how to embody your design, how to help the people in your home embody their designs better so that you can have this language and have this tool, because for so many people out there who think that it's another business strategy or another funnel or another attraction strategy or another form of content that's going to break the bubble, that's going to give you the time and space and energy to give to your family to understand them better, chances are it's not another business strategy. Chances are you need to handle what's going on in your home. And that's when everything works better, right? When you are, especially if you're working at home, if you're working at home and your home life sucks, it's going to be hard to produce anything positive in your work life, okay? So if that's you, please, please, please take a look at applying for my mastermind. So this is a 6-month experience. It is open to 5 people only. You got 4 private sessions, 6 months of masterminding calls, a private Facebook group, and then at the end, we finish with a virtual pizza party. I thought that this was something that I saw someone else do, and it was so fun, so cool, because so many people can't necessarily come somewhere for a retreat experience. And I really want this to be an opportunity for us to connect and to celebrate and to do something fun and something a little bit different. So pizza's on me. And that is the conclusion of our program. So I will have the link for all 3 of these options in the comments here for this workshop. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me. If you're someone who's been here the whole time, like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for your comments and your hearts. And if you're someone who's catching the replay, thank you too. I appreciate you just as much. And if you are someone who thinks that, you know, you're hearing this and you're like, wow, I know so-and-so super needs to hear this, share this with your friends, right? I would love, love, love to connect with people who matter to you, right? So I do want to give an option for like 5-ish minutes. I was about 10 minutes late coming to the party. Oh, thanks, Brittany. I thought it was fun, right? Instead of like crying the whole time on our last call, maybe we could celebrate with pizza instead. Brittany was in my mastermind 2 years ago, and our last call was literally all of us just, and I think if I remember correctly, the majority of the people in that group, not all, but the majority of the people were emotional authorities. So we got emotional. It was a good time though. Oh, thanks, Brittany. So I do want to open up for a few minutes of Q&A. I was a few minutes late, so I will stay a couple of minutes. If anybody has a question about anything that I have delivered here, whether it's about what human design is, my perspective on human design, my offers, right, or anything like that, I would love to answer any questions that you might have. If not, if you're, again, watching the replay, just drop your question in the comments and I will be sure to reply to your question in a timely fashion. So yeah, that's about it. I'm super excited. This workshop went really, really well. And I feel just super energized and feeling the love from all of you guys. So thank you for being here. And oh, hi, Stephanie. Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you today. That's so crazy that you'd show up on my live stream. That's so funny. So I'm actually just wrapping up here. So I'm going to do so that we don't just like run on and on. So thank you for being here, guys. If you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them into the comments and even to shoot me a DM, right? I want to connect with you, right? We're not just here to be like faces on the screen. Connection is where it's at. So loving you guys all so much. Have a great rest of your Thursday.